I found her in my kitchen, barefoot, wearing my robe. She had cracked 3 eggs into my favorite bowl, the ceramic one with the blue trim I bought in Portugal on our anniversary trip, and was humming the same lullaby I used to sing to my daughter at bedtime. She smiled at me like I was the guest. My husband sat at the table, freshly showered, reading the sports section, sipping from a mug that said "World's Best Dad." And our children? They didn't run to me. They just looked up, quiet and unsure, as if they didn't know who the mother was anymore. I stood there, trembling, while he finally looked up and said, "Emily, this isn't working anymore. You should go." No raised voices. No apology. Just the finality of a man who had already moved on and already replaced me. It wasn't the betrayal that broke me. It was the casual way he dismissed the years I'd given him. The love. The children. The silence I'd swallowed just to keep peace. I left that morning with nothing but my car keys and a tote bag. No plan. No lawyer. No home. But what he didn't know was that you don't take everything from a woman like me and expect her to stay broken. My name is Emily, and I was 34 when my husband, Marcus, left me for our 26-year-old nanny, Tara. At first, it didn't feel real. We had 2 children, 10 years of marriage, and a life we built together from the ground up. I had trusted him with everything, my time, my body, my sacrifices, and somehow that wasn't enough. He didn't just leave. He had been planning it. The moment I got sick, the moment I was too tired to keep the house spotless or the kids constantly entertained, he saw it as his excuse to swap me out. I let him win that first battle. I walked away. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Because if Marcus thought I'd let him raise my children in my house with the woman who replaced me, he had no idea who he was actually married to. Before everything fell apart, I believed in us. Marcus and I met in college. He was charming and bold, always full of ideas. I was quieter, more grounded. We balanced each other. At least, I thought we did. We got married young, 24. Most of our friends waited, but we jumped in with both feet. We moved into a little fixer-upper, spent our weekends painting walls and building bookshelves, dreaming about the life we'd create together. When we had our first child, Mia, I gave up my job in marketing to stay home. Not because he asked, but because I wanted to. I believed that building a strong home was the greatest investment I could make in our future. When Caleb came along 2 years later, I barely slept, but I never complained. I organized playdates, cooked from scratch, clipped coupons, and created birthday parties that looked like Pinterest boards come to life. Marcus worked long hours at a mid-sized tech firm, and I supported him in every way. When he got his first promotion, I cried with pride. I believed we were a team. But little things started to shift. He stopped saying, "Thank you." He started staying late at work more often, claiming the pressure was growing. He bought himself a new car without asking me. When I brought up our budget, he called me controlling. I still didn't suspect anything, not really. I thought it was just the season we were in. Raising 2 young kids is exhausting. I figured once we got through the hard years, things would settle again. Then I got sick. It started with fatigue. I was dizzy in the mornings, bruising easily, and losing weight without trying. I ignored it at first. Moms are always tired. But one afternoon, I nearly fainted while picking Caleb up from daycare. The doctor diagnosed me with severe iron deficiency anemia. I needed rest, infusions, time to heal. Marcus was distant about it. He told me not to milk it. Said I was stronger than this. But I wasn't milking anything. I could barely stand some days. He insisted we hire help. A nanny. "I'll cover the cost," he said. "You need to focus on getting better." Enter Tara. She showed up the next morning with long blonde hair, a chirpy voice, and a resume that looked too polished for someone her age. The kids took to her immediately. She made them laugh, baked cookies, and cleaned up the kitchen before I even asked. At first, I was grateful. I needed the help. She seemed competent, kind, energetic. But slowly, She started inserting herself deeper into our home. She'd comment on how tired I looked, always with a smile, like she was concerned. She started dressing in tighter clothes around Marcus. Once, I caught her spraying perfume in our bedroom when I walked in. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was insecure because I didn't feel like myself anymore. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then Mia called her mommy one night. It was just once, and Tara laughed it off, saying, "Oh no, sweetie, I'm just helping your real mommy." But Marcus didn't correct her. He just smiled and said, "Well, maybe she's got to now." It hit me like a slap. Still, I didn't accuse him. I didn't want to be that woman, the paranoid wife. I swallowed my pride and focused on healing. I started feeling better. I thought maybe we could still fix things. Maybe once the dust settled, we'd find our way back. I never got the chance. The morning everything changed, I walked into the kitchen early. I had finally slept through the night and wanted to surprise the kids with pancakes. I wasn't expecting to find Tara there, wearing my robe, using my pan, and humming my song. I froze. Marcus barely looked up from his paper. "Emily," he said, "this isn't working anymore. You should go." He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just ended our life with one sentence. That was when I realized I had already been replaced. Not just as his wife. As a mother. As a presence in my own home. They'd been preparing for this. I saw it now. The distance, the nanny, the gaslighting, all part of the same strategy. They wanted me to leave so they could take over without resistance. And for a moment, I almost let them. I sat in my car outside the house for almost an hour that day. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even start the engine. I stared at the front door, the curtains drawn just slightly to the side. I knew someone was watching. Maybe Marcus. Maybe Tara. I imagined them standing together in the kitchen, waiting for me to drive off so they could continue their cozy little charade uninterrupted. I had nowhere to go. No job. No savings of my own. Marcus had insisted on handling our finances. I trusted him. He said it made things easier, that he had a better head for numbers. I hadn't even noticed when he changed our joint accounts to his name only. I drove to my sister's place across town. Leah didn't ask questions. She just opened the door, saw my face, and held me until I stopped crying. That night, I slept in her guest room, clutching a pillow like it might disappear too. The next morning, I called a lawyer. It took me 3 tries to say the words out loud. My husband is cheating on me with our nanny, and he wants me gone. The attorney, a woman named Rachel, listened carefully. When I told her about the finances, the nanny, the kids calling someone else mommy, she sighed. "This isn't just infidelity," she said. "This is calculated removal. You need to fight." I was terrified. I didn't feel strong. But something about the word removal lit a fire in me. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was erased. And I couldn't let them get away with that. We filed for divorce the next week. Rachel advised me not to go back to the house, at least not without documentation. So I started building a case: photos, emails, calendar entries. Everything I could find. I didn't tell Marcus. Then came the court summons. And that's when he finally reached out. He texted me, as if we were still civil, like nothing had happened. "Let's keep this peaceful for the kids." Peaceful? He'd locked me out of my home. Let our children believe I'd left them. Paraded a younger woman through my kitchen while I was still sleeping in hospital beds and sipping iron supplements. Still, I didn't answer. I didn't scream. I just let my attorney do the talking. Then came the worst blow. He filed for full custody. The papers said I was emotionally unstable and physically unfit due to my medical history. He claimed the kids were flourishing in the care of their nanny and father, and that disrupting their stability would be detrimental. I stared at the words over and over again, like if I blinked hard enough, they'd vanish. But they didn't. He wasn't just trying to win, he was trying to erase me completely. That night, I broke down again. I lay on Leah's floor, sobbing, clutching one of Mia's old teddy bears she had left behind on a sleepover months before. And I remember thinking, maybe he's right. Maybe I really am replaceable. Then I saw something. It was a folder on my old laptop, the one I had left in storage. Inside were scanned documents, backups of paperwork Marcus made me sign over the years. And tucked inside the digital mess, I found something unusual, the deed to the house. But it wasn't in his name. It was in mine. Rachel confirmed it. Emily, your name is the only one listed on that property. Did you know that? I didn't. Marcus had always handled the final paperwork, and I never questioned it. But now it was clear he must have forgotten to change it. Or maybe he had done it that way for tax reasons, or to protect assets at one point. It didn't matter. The house was mine. Legally. Fully. And that changed everything. The moment Marcus got the court notification that I was contesting custody and claiming full ownership of the house, his mask cracked. The man who once said, "Let's keep it peaceful," now sent me a string of messages laced with subtle threats. You really want to drag the kids through this? Tara has been more of a mother than you ever were. You're sick, Emily. Still fragile. Don't make this harder on yourself. I saved every message. He changed the locks to my house. Claimed he did it for security, though legally, he had no right. I didn't confront him directly. Instead, I let my lawyer handle every word, every form. And behind the scenes, I kept collecting proof. School emails that still listed me as primary contact, pediatric records under my name, even video footage of me decorating the children's rooms on their birthdays. But Marcus didn't just stop at words. He enrolled the kids in private therapy behind my back and instructed the therapist to note their emotional confusion when interacting with me. I found out through the court documents. He was trying to build a narrative that I was unstable, detached, unfamiliar. And it almost worked. The kids were distant when I saw them during supervised visits. Mia wouldn't look me in the eye. Caleb clung to Tara's hand like she was the only safety he knew. That nearly broke me. But what Marcus didn't realize was that I'd stopped being scared. I was furious. And I wasn't alone. The breakthrough came in the most unexpected way, from inside his own camp. One afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice. Nervous, young. Hi, you don't know me. My name is Chelsea. I used to babysit for Marcus and Tara when you weren't around. My heart stopped. She explained that she had seen things that didn't sit right with her. Marcus and Tara left the kids with her regularly late nights, sometimes for full weekends, while they went out drinking or cleared their heads. Sometimes they argued in front of the children. Once, Tara slapped Mia for spilling juice on a new dress. Chelsea had tried to speak up, but Marcus told her to mind her job, that she was just a teenager. She had screenshots, text messages, voice memos. She wanted to help. I asked her why. Because I thought you abandoned them, she said softly. But now I know you didn't. With Rachel's help, we documented everything. And then, we requested an emergency custody hearing. Marcus's lawyer tried to block it, but it was too late. The court agreed to review new evidence. And that's when Marcus started to unravel. He accused me of manipulation, of weaponizing children. He even tried to file a restraining order, which was thrown out for lack of merit. Tara, on the other hand, went quiet. She stopped showing up to the hearings. We found out later that she had quietly moved into a hotel, away from the house. Away from him. They were cracking. The judge reviewed the documents, heard from Chelsea, and decided on a temporary arrangement. I was granted full physical custody for 30 days, pending final evaluation. Marcus had supervised visitation, the same punishment he had tried to give me. He looked stunned when the ruling was read aloud. Tara wasn't even there. That night, I picked up Mia and Caleb from school. Mia didn't recognize my car at first. But when she saw me get out, she hesitated, then ran into my arms. "Mommy," she whispered. "Can we come home now?" I had never cried like that before. Not even when I left the house the first time. That moment, holding both of them, was the beginning of everything healing. But the house, that was still in Marcus's grip. I didn't rush it. I waited for the perfect moment. A week later, I sent him a formal eviction notice. He had 14 days to vacate. He ignored it. So I showed up, with an officer and the original deed in my hand. Marcus opened the door, disheveled, hollow-eyed. Tara was gone. The kids were gone. And now the house was gone too. I stepped past him and into my kitchen. The same place he had once looked me in the eye and told me to leave. Now he stood there in silence while I walked back in without fear. He had taken my voice, my trust, my children. But now I had taken everything back. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam doors or throw accusations. I simply walked through the house I legally owned, room by room, touching the things that had once felt like mine and were now mine again, only this time, without the illusion. Without Marcus. He followed me like a ghost, hovering in the doorway of each room but never stepping in. I could see it in his eyes, the slow, dawning realization that he had lost. Not just the house, not just the kids, but control. And that was what he had valued above everything else. The officer handed him the papers and instructed him, calmly but firmly, to begin packing. "You've got until the end of the week," I said, meeting his eyes for the first time in months. "After that, I'll have your things put in storage and your access revoked. Don't test it." He tried to speak, maybe to justify, maybe to plead, but I didn't give him the chance. I turned and walked out the door. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I drove home, to my sister's place, not as a broken woman, but as a mother with a plan. That night, I told the kids they'd be moving back into the house. Not yet, but soon. Slowly, carefully, we began restoring their rooms together. Mia chose new curtains. Caleb asked if we could repaint his walls. I let them decide everything. Because this time, I wanted them to feel like it was their home too. Safe. Unshakable. Marcus tried one last move, a final custody appeal. He showed up to court in a cheap suit and shaky hands, arguing that the children were being emotionally weaponized against him. But the judge had read every file, reviewed every call log, and most damning of all, had heard the recordings Chelsea submitted. One in particular stood out. Marcus, in a drunken slur, telling Tara, "I don't care what happens to her. Let her rot in that apartment. You're the one I want raising my kids." The court ruled in my favor. Full custody. No more supervised visits, because there were no more visits at all. He was allowed biannual letters to be reviewed by my lawyer before ever reaching my children. As for the house, I had it deep cleaned, repainted, restored to something warm and alive again. No longer a tomb of betrayal. I opened the windows and let the air rush through every room. I bought new furniture. I planted flowers out front, not because I needed to, but because it reminded me that healing doesn't bloom overnight. It takes time, patience, and courage. 2 months later, I stood in the living room as movers carried the last of Marcus's boxes to a truck. He didn't show up. The driver handed me a clipboard. He said you could keep whatever's left. I didn't want any of it. I watched as the truck disappeared down the street, carrying the remnants of a man who had once called this place his kingdom. Now he was nothing but a name on court records, an echo in the halls he used to rule. And me? I stood barefoot in the doorway, my children laughing upstairs, sunlight pouring across the floor, and realized I had won. Not by yelling, not by begging, but by surviving, by planning, by reclaiming, and by never letting go of who I really was, even when he tried to strip that away. The house is quiet now in the way I always hoped it would be. Not the eerie silence of tension, or the hushed dread of waiting for another shoe to drop, but the peace of morning light through kitchen windows and soft giggles drifting down the hallway. The sound of normal, of safety, of home. We moved back in 2 weeks after the final court order was signed. The children adjusted faster than I expected, though maybe it wasn't surprising. Children don't need perfection. They need consistency. They need to know where they belong. And slowly, with every bedtime story and every packed lunch, I rebuilt that foundation beneath them. Mia asked me once, "Mommy, is Tara gone forever?" I told her the truth, that Tara was no longer part of our lives, and that some people aren't meant to stay. That didn't make them powerful. That made them temporary. Caleb doesn't talk about his father much. Once, he asked if Marcus would ever come back, and I said he could write letters if he chose to. But I saw the way my son's shoulders eased when I told him Marcus wouldn't be allowed to live with us again. I saw how much weight he was carrying, even at that age. He needed to know that love didn't mean exposure. That family didn't mean chaos. As for me, I changed too. At first, I thought the pain would never leave my bones. That every corner of this house would trigger some ghost, some echo of Marcus's voice or the nanny's laugh. And for a while, it did. I'd walk into the kitchen and hear whispers in my memory. I'd pull laundry from the dryer and remember folding his shirts. But something strange happened when I stopped running. When I walked room by room and claimed it all back. The ghosts faded. The laughter changed. The memories that used to cut like glass dulled into background noise. It's strange how people say revenge is loud and fire-breathing, that it scorches the earth as it arrives. Mine wasn't. Mine was quiet, methodical. Built one affidavit at a time. One court date at a time. One truth at a time. And in the end, it wasn't about him anymore. It wasn't about destroying Marcus, or humiliating Tara, or even winning. It was about proving something deeper to my children and to myself. That no one gets to rewrite my story while I'm still here to tell it. I've gone back to work part-time. It's nothing glamorous, just consulting from home while the kids are at school. But it feels good to use my mind again. To answer questions and solve problems that don't involve lawyers or courtrooms. For a long time, my identity was tied to Marcus, to being his wife, the one who stayed behind to keep everything smooth and silent. Now, I'm just Emily. No one's accessory. No one's footnote. Sometimes, on Sunday afternoons, I sit on the front porch with coffee while Mia rides her bike and Caleb digs holes in the flower beds. Neighbors wave. Some of them know the story, or think they do. They whisper about the husband who ran off with the nanny and lost everything. But I don't correct them. Let them talk. Because none of them know the full truth, how close I came to disappearing entirely. How deeply betrayal can root itself in your skin until you don't recognize your own reflection. But I know. And I know what it took to rise. So if you're listening, if you're where I was, trying to breathe through the rubble of what someone else broke, just know this. You don't have to fight with fire to win. Sometimes, silence is the sharpest weapon. Sometimes, patience is the loudest scream. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't taking something from them. It's taking yourself back. Would he still do it, knowing where we'd both end up? Would he still trade 10 years of marriage, 2 children, and a home for someone younger and louder and more eager to please? Maybe. But that doesn't matter anymore. Because I'm not wondering if Marcus regrets what he did. I'm wondering why it took me so long to remember what I deserved. And I won't forget again.